There are people who seem unshakable. Steady voices on morning television. Familiar faces that feel like part of the living room furniture. Eamonn Holmes has always been one of those people. With his sharp wit, warm humor, and trademark confidence, he has guided viewers through the chaos of daily life for decades, making the complicated feel simple and the serious feel bearable. But strength, especially the public kind, doesn't always tell the full story. Behind the polished smile and the quick-fire jokes, Eamonn have been carrying a quiet heartbreak. Not the dramatic kind tabloids love to exaggerate. No shouting matches, no grand confrontations, no flying plates or storming out. What he faced was something far more subtle, far more bewildering, and far more painful. Silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that stretches across a room like a shadow. The kind that turns familiar spaces into unfamiliar territory. The kind that makes two people feel like strangers sitting on the same sofa. For years, Eamonn and Ruth Langsford were admired as one of the most charming on-screen partnerships. Their easy chemistry, playful teasing, and effortless banter made audiences believe they were unbreakable. They laughed together, worked together, built a life side by side. Onlookers saw two people who fit together the way puzzle pieces do, naturally, perfectly, inevitably. But life has a way of shifting, even for the couples who seem to have everything figured out. Eamonn revealed something recently, something he had kept close to his chest for a long time. It wasn't the public pressure that hurt him, not the gossip columns, not the online speculation, not the stream of opinions from people who had never met him. What truly broke his heart was the quiet distance that grew between him and Ruth. It didn't happen overnight. That's the cruel trick of emotional distance. It arrives slowly, almost politely, slipping into a relationship without announcing itself. Friends noticed the change before he did. Eamonn's jokes didn't land with the same spark. His smile seemed tighter some days. Even on set, where he usually came alive, there were moments when his eyes drifted elsewhere. Moments when something weighed on him. Those closest to him say he tried everything to stay composed. He kept working, kept smiling, kept trying to be the dependable presence everyone expected. But the silence at home echoed louder than any studio audience. He hoped it was a phase. Everyone has those stretches where life gets busy, emotions get tangled, priorities clash. He thought this was just one of those seasons. A rough patch, nothing more. With time, patience, and a little effort, he believed things would return to normal. But the warmth he once felt began slipping away, replaced by chilly pauses and cautious conversations. On some days, there were no conversations at all. For a man whose entire career revolved around communication, the quietness felt unnatural, unsettling, almost frightening. He once told a friend, "When someone you love stops talking to you, it's like losing them while they're still in the room." A sentence simple enough to say, but heavy enough to sit with forever. Ruth's silence wasn't harsh, it wasn't angry, and it certainly wasn't meant to hurt him. It was gentle, quiet, thoughtful, her way of protecting herself as emotions swirled around them. She was processing, reflecting, trying to take space in a world that constantly demanded she share every detail of her life. But to Eamonn, that silence felt like a locked door he didn't know how to open. He tried reaching out, tried reigniting the conversations that once came so easily, tried to remind both of them of the laughter they used to share, the inside jokes, the small moments that once stitched their days together. But the distance persisted, subtle but unmissable. Some nights, Eamonn sat awake replaying memories, moments from holidays, old interviews, off-camera jokes, and the times they'd burst into laughter for no reason at all. He wondered whether he could have done more, whether he had missed the signs sooner, whether he had unintentionally pushed her away. The silence became a reminder of how fragile even strong relationships can be. The breaking point came quietly, almost unremarkably. One evening, Eamonn realized he and Ruth hadn't exchanged more than a handful of words all day. The woman who had once been his closest friend, his biggest supporter, and his most trusted partner, suddenly felt miles away. There was no argument, no dramatic exit, just a quiet realization that something precious had slipped beyond reach. That night, Eamonn admitted privately that he broke down, a rare moment for someone who always seemed composed. He described it as one of his loneliest moments of his life. For a man constantly surrounded by people, cameras, producers, and viewers, loneliness rarely came in crowds. It came in quiet rooms with someone he loved sitting just a few feet away. Months later, their separation became public, unleashing a wave of speculation, headlines, and noise. People talked, commentators analyzed, fans wondered. But behind the swirling public storm, Eamonn's grief stayed anchored to something far simpler, the silence that had preceded everything. Meanwhile, those close to Ruth explained that her silence was never a rejection. It was a shield, a form of survival, a way to make sense of years of mismatched schedules, emotional strain, and growing differences. Sometimes speaking feels too heavy, too raw, too final. For Ruth, silence was a place to think without pressure, to breathe without scrutiny. When Eamonn finally opened up about how deeply the quietness affected him, something shifted. It wasn't just a confession, it was a release, a truth he had carried alone for too long. And for many listening, his words hit close to home, because the end of a relationship rarely comes with fireworks. It often arrives quietly, in paused conversations, in unanswered questions, in soft goodbyes that never get spoken. Today, Eamonn is focusing on rebuilding. He's choosing health, choosing family, choosing peace. He's learning that healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small steps, in new routines, in rediscovering parts of himself he had forgotten along the way. He still respects the years he and Ruth shared together, still acknowledges the laughter, the love, and the life they built together. Even endings can hold gratitude. And while the silence once broke him, the honesty that followed may be what finally helps him move forward, stronger, wiser, and more connected to himself than ever before. Because sometimes the most powerful story isn't about what was lost. It's about the courage to speak after staying quiet for too long. It's about learning to listen not just to others, but to your own heart. And it's about finding hope, even in the spaces where sound once lived.